Good morning. Good morning, good morning. I hope everybody's as well. I am. Yay! It's Higurashi time. Yay! Yeah, last stream was oh boy. It was really good. It was pretty intense. Um, but man, it's it's really good. Um, yeah, so I took my notes after that stream. How about we quickly go over that? I actually, because I've been trying to work out what works best for me taking notes, and I was just kind of going through my VODs, like skipping through them, playing on two times speed, you know. But after the last stream, I tried checking out the transcript for it, like that YouTube auto generates. And it's actually pretty good. I'm like really impressed. It's very handy. But oh no, and I just realized I'm doing it now. At the start of that VOD, the amount of times that the transcript picks up me saying it's insane. And I just heard myself going before I said that. So that's cool. Okay. Anyways, oh no. I can't stop it. I can't stop it. Okay. Well, the ooh, it's so hard not to say Okay, last time we went to school. We I assume this. I think we started at chapter 7. I've kind of been going through. We've been doing like a chapter and a half, so I think we started chapter 7 last stream. We went to school. There's no club. Keiichi went to Mion's place. I'm just gonna say fuck it, I don't care. I do care, I care so much. Keiichi's like to Mion, he's like, listen, uh, basically confronting her, not confronting, asking if she can kill Satoko's uncle in the Watanagashi freak deaths, the Oyashiro-sama's curse, and shit. And Mion's like, yeah, you're misunderstanding things, Kei-chan. Like, I don't actually have that power. And I'm not gonna lie to you and say that I do, because you would get your hopes up, and then when it doesn't happen, it would suck. And she's like, I know that Mio told you. And he's like, she didn't know. So that's probably what Takano told him when it cut away rudely. And then Mion goes to a meeting for like the Watanagashi festival. It's taking place in a couple days. And then the next day, I took note that Keiichi was struggling to fall asleep because it's so hot. It is in summer, I'm pretty sure, but like still, I'm taking note of it because I don't know. I feel like Keiichi might be sick, but I don't know. I'm just trying to whatever. We go to school. Oh, Mion tells Rena and Keiichi that her aunt is a welfare worker, a welfare agent in the Hinamizawa district. And she said that they were going to pay Satoko regular visits. Aunt didn't know if Satoko was safe. She wasn't meant to tell her in the first place. Satoko's at school and she's acting like nothing happened. Rika and Keiichi talk, and Chie also joins in, and they're talking about how Satoko's father who died wasn't her real father. I was thinking about this and I'm like, what? So then who is her real father? A few things that I was thinking about. One of the things is Satoshi like a half brother, but I think it's kind of implied they're from the same. Their father's the same guy. And also, if Satoko's blood-related father is around and we know who he is, could he come and save her? what if, hear me out, what if her real father is, Coach? What if? So, basically Satoko was really rebellious as a kid, and she didn't like her stepfather because she wanted the attention from her mother, and she, in 1977, she made up a story about how she was being abused and reported it, and then welfare officers, like, when they got there, like, her stepfather was really apologetic and was like, I'm gonna do better, like, I'll take, like, coaching on, like, parenting and shit. Yeah, so, and then from that, it's basically like, if Satoko's reporting abuse, they kind of call it into question because she's lied before. Yeah, so that was quite significant. And then at lunchtime, this was the scene where we started eating together, the group of friends, and then Keiichi tried to pat Satoko on the head, and she kind of lost it. She really started freaking out. She, like, threw up and was, like, throwing shit around. Just really not having a good time. And then Rena comforts her, and then Satoko tells her something, and Rena, like, kind of gets angry. And then, like, Rena kicks the cleaning supply locker. And, you know, then goes back to comfort Satoko more. And then Keiichi asks Rena, sorry, I'm just kind of recapping this really poorly, but, you know, it's good for me, to get things in my brain. Hopefully it helps you as well. Yeah, Keiichi asks Rena what she said, and Rena's like, shut the hell up, asshole. And then when Chie shows up, the teacher, Satoko just pulls herself together and acts like nothing happened, because there's an adult around. And then Keiichi starts, like, freaking, he goes into his mind palace and he's like, oh, my brain's so huge, I'm gonna fucking kill her uncle, he only has 1,500 seconds to live, I can stop him from living at any moment. And then he comes back to himself, and, you know, his friends are like, are you okay? Like, you were, like, out of it. You were, like, were you having a nightmare? And then he tells Rena to, like, shut up, and then I highlighted this. Rena's like, was that your voice? For a second, your eyes were really scary. Mion, I've never seen those kind of eyes before. And then Rena asks if he's really Keiichi Maebara. That, to me, that's, like, what we've seen with the other characters, like, in episode 1 with Rena, and in episode 2 with, I think Rena has done that in, like, every episode, but, like, where characters, their eyes kind of go cat-like. And so I think that's what happened to Keiichi in that moment. Yeah, and then chapter 8, it was basically just Keiichi thinking about how he's gonna... I wrote, Keiichi thinking about how he's gonna kill this motherfucker. And then he's thinking about mystery novels and that shit, and he talks to his mom about murder mysteries. She's really into mystery novels. Perfect crime doesn't get written about because it doesn't have a beginning. The beginning is when the crime's discovered. And then he goes to school to get the metal bat, and he hides the metal bat. And that's where we left off. So yeah, that was a bit of a long start to the stream. I hope that was okay. But a lot happened. I mean, not much happened, but also a lot happened. No, a lot did happen. It was quite a bit. But yesterday I drew a scene. I will put it up. I posted it on Tumblr. But I really liked. I don't know how to implement my art into the streams. Like, I wanna show off my art when it's relevant. And, like, I've got the things on the side, but this isn't really one that I'm just gonna stick on the side because it's not a silly little thing. But yeah, this scene I really liked it. So I wanted to draw Rena comforting Satoko. Sometimes I just I, like, don't do, like, a proper, like, art piece for a hot minute, and then I just get inspiration, and then in, like, a day I'm like, whoa, bam. But yeah, that's posted on my Tumblr if anyone is curious. But yeah, I said this in, like, the tags on my post. I was like, it's crazy how Higurashi goes from a pervert eating sweet treats to a scene like that. Anyways, alright, let's continue. We're gonna fucking kill this guy. disposing of the corpse. The ultimate way not to create a beginning was to not let the corpse be found. It was even more important than killing him. I'm so interested in seeing where this goes, because this is very different to the previous times. I mean, they've been different. The first time, Keiichi was like really fucking paranoid. He didn't trust his friends at all. Like, even though he wanted to, he just couldn't. And he ended up killing Mion and Rena. I mean, unless something else happened, but that's what I think happened. And then he scratched out his throat. And then second time around, it was... It wasn't like he's paranoid. I should probably... think about the second episode a bit more. About what differentiates it. It felt kind of like a bit of a middle ground. This time round, it's like he's really trusting the people in his life. He's trusting his friends. He's trusting the teacher. He wants to get help. Yeah, so it's interesting. Okay, yeah. It was even more important than killing him. Thinking on it vaguely, the first thing that came to mind was the swamp. I was thinking that last stream as well. But it would be difficult to get to it because isn't the swamp near the shrine? I don't know, maybe I'm wrong about that. Onigafuchi, the dreadful bottomless swamp revered even now that appeared in the legends of Onigafuchi village. Yes, the swamp called Onigafuchi was here first, and then the village took its name to become Onigafuchi village. In other words, this swamp was the origin of Onigafuchi village. How many times can we say Onigafuchi in one screen? No one, no matter who it was, would float back to the surface of this bottomless swamp. Everyone would be swallowed... Okay, no one would float back to the surface of this bottomless swamp. Okay, everyone would be swallowed down into the land of the demons below the earth. That was how the stories went. If I was trying to copy Oyashiro-sama's curse, then I felt that theory demanded I discard the remains and the weapon into the swamp. But they may have said it's bottomless, but I didn't actually know. Yeah, it might not be. You just throw like a body into like a pond and it just kind of floats around and it's like, fuck, shit. Goes into the water, like tries to drag the body out, fuck. And people say large creatures like humans produce a lot of gas when they rot, granting a lot of buoyancy. It was why using fairly heavy objects to hold people down didn't work. Come to think of it, with the curse the year before last, Rika-chan's mother drowned herself in this swamp. Supposedly, if we haven't found her body, we don't know. We don't know. And the criminal behind the dismemberment that went missing the year of the first curse too, it was rumored he tried to discard the body in the swamp and accidentally drowned in it. I think that's the first time we're hearing of this particular rumor. But it wasn't even discarding the body, it was just part of the body. I never heard of the corpse coming back up or them finding it. Then shouldn't I choose to discard the corpse there too? I could discard the weapon there. And then, for example, if her uncle came out on a motorcycle and attacked, it would be convenient to get rid of the bike too. I knew that Satoko's uncle generally used a motorcycle for transportation. But as for the corpse... After a lot of worrying, I decided not to discard the corpse in the swamp. That's wise. You know what you should do, Keiichi? You should, like... What you should do is you should get an oil drum, you should take it into the mountains, you should get the body of the uncle and strip him and put him in the oil drum and light him on fire. But make sure that they can find his teeth and identify him through dental records. The drowning, suicide, and accident were both rumors, and nobody knew if they'd actually happened. There were no lack of false rumors about the drowning suicide anyway, and it was possible the murderer hadn't drowned there and was still on the run. That meant no one had ever confirmed a corpse being dropped in there and then not coming back up. Then what would I do with the body? I thought it might be interesting to go with the first incident, cut him into pieces and hide him, but the preparation and work for dismembering a human body would be difficult given the amount of time I had. With that out of the question, I arrived at the conclusion to go with the more orthodox method of burying the body. Then where would I bury it? It was a question related to where I would kill him. Of course, I wanted to keep my time in proximity to the body at a minimum. With that in mind, I would want to dig the hole to dump the body in beforehand and make the location of the act and the hole close together. I'm thinking about like the illegal like dump site where Rena finds her treasure. Or the mountains where Satoko set up a lot of traps. But, I mean, I don't know. I guess if Keiichi is like remembered where the traps are, he could like expertly maneuver through them and then hide the body. But also that could also be kind of bad because maybe Satoko will go there to make more traps and then she'll come across the body of her dead uncle. Maybe not. The choice of where to plan the crime, that I need to be absolutely careful and thorough with. Had to be somewhere nobody would witness it, and a place with hiding places for a sneak attack. I could dig a hole for the body right there. I go over the possibilities in my head of the various destinations her uncle would head to from Satoko's house. I imagined a map of the area in my head, and then I found a place that fulfilled those conditions so easily it was almost unbelievable. A bit of a back road that went through the woods. I didn't think her uncle would go deeper into the mountains of Yagouchi on a whim. If he was going somewhere, he'd pass through these woods first. And nobody used this back way unless they had something to do at Satoko's house or one or two other places. This path was fantastically ideal, as few people used it. What if he accidentally kills the wrong guy? What if some guy just walks by? What if Satoko walks by and he jumps out with a baseball bat? If he did that, I think that Satoko would kill him with her bare hands. I think that is what would happen. I would wait for him in these woods. Would an ambush actually be possible? I went into the trees and tried really hiding myself in a few places. It was extremely quiet. My senses could be sharpened here to their maximum amount. I didn't know when he'd come, but I'd wait right here for Satoko's uncle. I actually had some trouble coming to that decision. The question arose of whether I should somehow call the man out. Was there a risk I'd be taking by luring him here? That man made Satoko do all the shopping and errands. He seldom left on his own business. He wouldn't leave unless I worked out a plan to force him, would he? That was the question. Tomorrow was the Watanagashi festival. Would he go out for the festival, or would he stay inside? If he stayed inside, how would I drag him out of his house? I'm kind of assuming he's gonna stay inside. I would not think that he'd want to show his face to the people of the village at a festival celebrating the village, I guess. You know? That's right. Wouldn't he make Satoko go to the festival? Satoko would go to the festival. Meanwhile, I would call the man. This is the Okinomiya police station. We have the young lady from your house. Could you come pick her up immediately? It didn't even have to be the police. This is the clinic. The young lady from your house has been injured. Please come and pick her up. Yes, that would work too. If I claimed to be the police or the hospital, told him to come, and then hung up on him, he'd rush there trying to figure out what was going on, wouldn't he? I mean... Or he would just fucking flee. He would get the hell out. And just the other day, he was visited by a probation officer. He wouldn't suddenly grumble about having to get his niece and not go. It would look like child neglect. The man had no skills useful around the house. Satoko, his slave, was an essential part of his daily life. Conclusion. If he went out to the festival, I would attack him here on his way there or back. If he didn't, I would lure him out by phone. If luring him out by phone was my first step, I needed to be sure Satoko would go to the festival, leaving the house. It would be convenient if I could make Mion take Satoko to the festival. She said her aunt was a district welfare officer. In other words, an ally to the probation officer. If I somehow incited Mion to take Satoko to the festival with her, well, being who she was, she'd use that fact to get her there. Satoko should just take a break and have fun at the festival with everyone. She should have a good time, reminisce on our former peaceful days, and when she went home, everything would be over. Yeah, that would be the best outcome. With that decided, I needed to dig a hole somewhere in the woods to hide the body. So it wouldn't stand out, so it wouldn't be found. Someplace nobody would see me while I was completely exposed as I buried the corpse. I had wanted it to be close to the scene of the crime, but it naturally grew farther away. Deep in the bosom of the Black Forest, the voices of the Higurashi were the only sounds here, informing me that people shouldn't indiscreetly set foot in this place. Digging a hole, huh? Digging a hole with so many tree roots crawling around the ground would be far more difficult than I'd envisioned. I'm kind of anticipating, like, some of Satoko's traps, you know? Whether now or, like, he's, like, trying to drag the body to where he dug this hole and, like, he triggers, like, a bunch of traps, you know? Digging a hole with so many tree roots crawling around the ground would be far more difficult than I'd envisioned. I snuck a gardening spade out here in my bag, but that wouldn't be enough. That's nowhere near enough, dude. Still, as I looked into various approaches, I managed to find a place I could dig into. Tomorrow I'd bring a real shovel from the storeroom at home. I'd manage with that. I wondered how big a hole would have to be to fit a human all the way into it. I'd probably have to dig pretty deep down. But if I was slipshod in these efforts, I'd let a beginning occur. I absolutely couldn't allow that. Use any amount of time you need to. I mustn't spare any effort to utterly erase him. I glanced at my wristwatch. It was a little past 6. This was probably all I was going to get done here for today. I really wanted to dig the hole in advance tonight, even if it got dark out, but Mum would be upset if I stayed out that late. What if you sneak out at night and dug a hole? You could do that. Isn't there a bit, like in your room, where you can climb in and out through the window? It wouldn't be good to come off as suspicious to my parents. I needed to go back home and give Mion a call soon. I needed to get her to promise Satoko to take her by tonight. I mean, I don't, okay, yeah. I get what they're saying. After that, today would be done. Done. Would it be, though? Is this really everything I could do to prepare right now? I decided where to kill him. I decided how to kill him. I decided, of course, how to dispose of the body. I didn't decide on a time, but I would play that by ear. I didn't have a way to decide that. Was that really all? Was this really all right? Have I overlooked anything? Would this really go how I planned? There's too many variables. After all this, worries started welling up one after another. It was only natural I'd be anxious. This would be the first and last big job of my lifetime. I could not allow failure, and I had no experience as this was my first time. I didn't have the know-how, the knack, so it was only natural I'd be anxious. The dark clouds of unease told me doing nothing would be the easiest way, a truly pathetic suggestion this late in the game. Have you forgotten how miserable Satoko looked? From the outside, it may have looked like I was resolute, but deep in my heart, my knees were shaking loudly. Damn, the knees in his heart are shaking loudly. Hate when that happens. I've never actually won a single fight to my satisfaction. Could I really kill someone? I may have been planning an ambush, but my enemy was larger and far older than me. He had a scary face and he looked like he was well accustomed to fighting. Could I have... All the pieces before and after the murder were perfectly planned, but was the actual murder the most important part, what unsettled me the most? All my preparations, all of my perfectly concealed machinations. If I didn't successfully murder him, they amounted to nothing. Yeah, then what? Do you try and murder him again? What if he, like, manages to jump out and try to attack the guy, and then he's like, whoa, buddy, and then Keiichi, like, gets arrested, and nothing happens. Damn it. After coming this far, you're pathetic, Keiichi Maebara. If you start to have these kinds of second thoughts, your ulterior motive will be obvious. Let's go home. Go home and calm your mind. Tomorrow will be a juncture in your life, the likes of which graduation, employment, marriage, and childbirth couldn't hold a candle to. A day of murder. To kill someone. For someone else's sake. With that day behind us, we would take it back again. Those mild, spring-like days we never thought would stop. Those safe, peaceful, fun times. I pedaled my bicycle hard to get back home. I felt somehow unsteady, like my body and soul weren't in alignment. A subtle shift between where the tips of my hands and feet really were and where I felt them to be. My vision was a little distant and narrow, as if the great barrier I risked my future life on had nothing to do with me. An unreal sensation. How could I put it? Everything was so far away. Fine. Feel your unease permeate you, Keiichi Maebara. If that will turn your timidity into meticulousness and allow you to act with greater caution, then it's actually an important emotion to feel. This feeling I had never went away that night. I mean, planning to kill someone is pretty huge. That's gotta kind of fuck with you mentally, and like, fuck with you so much mentally that it will fuck with you physically. It was the first time I'd be calling Mion's house. I searched for her in the phone book the school gave me, then dialed a short phone number, the kind unique to remote places. It was around dinner time. She would probably be home. But just as I started to think nobody would respond, someone finally picked up the receiver. Hello, this is Sonozaki. Oh, I'm sorry for calling so late at night. Is this Mion? Huh? May I ask who's calling? It's me, Keiichi. Oh, Kei-chan. It's pretty late. What's up? She seemed to be in a weirdly good mood and she drew her syllables out. Is she drunk? Right, it's the night before tomorrow's festival, so she's probably with her family having some drinks. Sorry for the late call. Do you have time right now? Sure, what is it? It's about Satoko. I heard her drawing a small breath on the other end. Satoko. She's in a pretty bad spot. I hope she's okay. The scent of sake had completely disappeared from her voice. Oh, okay, I understood. I won't do that then. She can't be okay. You saw too, didn't you? What was she like? She was completely worn out from all the abuse. We failed her all this time and now she's become like that. We didn't fail her. Everyone tried their hardest to help her. But we didn't come up with anything, and we couldn't save her. In the end, we couldn't do anything about it, and now she's become like that. I guess you're right. All I did was watch after all. So, well, at least... Couldn't we at least let her have fun for one night? Huh? Let her have fun? She's been so battered lately, you'll understand. That's why. I want you to take her to the Watanagashi festival tomorrow. I don't mind. But why? Why? I want to give her a breather, at least for the festival night, you know? Even if it's just one night, if she can get away from her evil uncle, then I think she'll be happy, even if it's only for a little while. Yes, but why? Why? Why what? I was having a little difficulty understanding what Mion was asking me. Why? Well, I mean, why don't you bring her, Kei-chan? Why do you need to ask me to do it? Mion was persistent about odd things, no. Maybe it'd be better to say that she was sharp. I mean, Keiichi comes to her place and basically begs her to kill Satoko's uncle, and now he's like, hey... Did I say Mion? Did I say someone else's name? I'm just a little guy. My brain is... Anyways. What was I saying? Holy shit. Keiichi goes to Mion's place, begs her to kill Satoko's uncle, and now he's like, hey Mion, you should like take Satoko out to the festival. No reason in particular. Lost Boy Key, what's up? Good to see ya. When's the new Sleep Token album out? I remember last time you said it was soon. Well, I actually have something to do tomorrow. I can't make it to the festival, so I wanted you to take Satoko there for me. Friday! Ooh! So soon! Something to do? It's nothing major. I'll probably finish quickly, but I might not be able to meet up with you all tomorrow. Hey, Mion. Could I leave Satoko to you, just for tomorrow night? Mion took a long time to give her reply. I got the feeling that Mion had been acting weird for a while now. Like she was flustered by emotions or something. No. Oh god, what's gonna happen? Huh? Was that a sob? Mion? Are you crying? I said, no, I don't want to. I don't want you to push this onto someone like me. I'm not trying to push anything onto you. It's just for tomorrow night. That was a lie. What? Mion, what was she talking about? Saying it's just for the night of Watanagashi, and then it was forever. Liar. Oh, is this what Satoshi did? But I guess we're even, huh? I couldn't keep the promise I made with you. I left her alone all this time. I had no idea what to say to that. Mion was clearly now talking to someone other than me. I didn't know who. All I could do was listen to her in a daze. Never came back after that. Now you called me again to push her onto me. You're so unfair. Hey, you're Satoshi-kun, aren't you? Did Satoshi kill the aunt? Mion, what are you talking about? It has been said that their aunt not uncle, their aunt was killed by a deviant who was he on drugs or something? And he like confessed to shit. And that's who killed their aunt. But Satoshi, we know from episode 1 that he, like Keiichi, he suddenly started like practicing his swing, like with a baseball bat. And the aunt was killed with a baseball bat, I'm pretty sure. But kind of points to Satoshi. Mion, what are you talking about? When I said her name, whatever spell was on Mion was released. Holy shit, I just remembered now. There was the thing with, that Coach mentioned in, I think it was a scene in the tips, where it was to, Shion. Coach said that Satoshi left behind a girlfriend, I think. Was that Mion? I'm sorry. It's nothing. It's just that I got a phone call a lot like the one you're making now. A long time ago. Was it from Satoshi? Yeah, you fucking genius. Mion didn't answer. All I could hear was sobs coming through the receiver. Sorry. I think I'm still a little tipsy. I got all weirdly emotional. Sorry, I probably scared you. I had no idea how it happened. But I was pretty sure that last year, on this very day, Satoshi had called Mion and told her to bring Satoko to the festival. And when she asked why he needed her to do it, he replied the same way I just did. Satoshi didn't go to the festival, did he? Yeah. Said he had something to do and couldn't make it. And he told me to take Satoko there in his place. At the time, Satoshi said it too, didn't he? That he'd leave Satoko to you? Yeah, he did. Just for tomorrow night. The way you said it was just like how he did. I just got a little upset, caught up in a memory and all. I didn't expect this. Satoshi had given her the exact same phone call 1 year ago today. After that, Mion had said more. That he was lying. That he told her it would only be for the night of the festival. I get it. A few days later, Satoshi, he disappeared. Disappeared might have been a rather vague way to put it. Did he show up again after that night? Or... because I'm thinking, did he show up again and then he went missing? Or that night did he leave, like disappear and never come back? And then a couple days after they declared him missing. Whether he ran away or not, Satoshi left, abandoning Satoko. Yes, he didn't transfer or run away from home. He disappeared. And then, an idea far more indistinct than even fog crossed my mind. Satoshi made exactly the same phone call as me last year. You connecting the dots, Keiichi? Why would Satoshi make the exact same call? If, in the truest sense, he really made the exact same phone call as I am right now, then the incident where their aunt was beaten to death, could it... He's using his brain cells! Was... Satoshi. Huh? What was that? Last year. Satoko had been constantly abused by her uncle's wife, their aunt, too. Her aunt abused her the most. And on that night, in the name of Oyashiro-sama's curse, he was taken from this world. If I thought about that, everything made perfect sense, didn't it? Last year, Satoko's aunt was beaten to death, wasn't she? Would it be impossible for Satoshi to have... No, but that would mean... But then Satoshi... He was a coward who abandoned Satoko and ran away, wasn't he? How could Satoshi resolve himself to kill a person to save Satoko? It was unthinkable. I actually considered that as well. Though it'd be mean to Satoshi. A few days later, he disappeared. On Satoko's birthday. When I first heard it, I flew into a rage. What a cruel day to have run away on. What if he was killed by the uncle? But now that I thought about it like this, the story changed completely. Satoshi had probably been even less calm than I was now. He was her big brother, related by blood, watching his little sister be abused day in and day out. Maybe that's why he couldn't keep calm. And that was why the corpse of their aunt, beaten to death, was so easily discovered. Okay. Satoshi lost himself in his anger and hadn't hidden the corpse. He permitted a beginning to occur. If the police conducted a full-blown investigation, it was easy to imagine they wouldn't take long to pin down Satoshi as the culprit. Okay, so in this, it's just kind of come to me now, the whole beginning of a, you know, a murder mystery type thing. The previous cases where a body has been discovered, that means that the person who did the crimes or whatever, for whatever reason, they allowed a beginning to happen. Whether through carelessness or like inability or to start, to actually, like their goal was to make a beginning. I mean, like, obviously, like, the thing is, though, all the cases are so different. There's the dam site dismemberment, and there's the Satoko's parents, and Rika's parents, or grandparents? I forgot. And then Satoko's aunt. They've all died in very different ways. There's dismemberment, and then falling like from a viewpoint, like off a cliff into like rushing water or whatever. Sorry, the exact details are kind of blurry in my brain. And then like the priest dying from illness, and the wife like supposedly drowning herself in the swamp, and then the aunt being beaten to death, and then Tomitake being discovered like clawed out his throat, and Takano missing or found in an oil drum. If the police conducted a full-blown investigation, it was easy to imagine they wouldn't take long to pin down Satoshi as the culprit. Then why didn't they? Unless they kept it a secret. Satoshi, he wished for a return to peaceful days with Satoko, and though he achieved it for a time, like... now I'm thinking about Oishi, like, how... If Satoshi killed the aunt and the police figured that out, would Oishi use that to be like, yeah, this family's suspicious, Keiichi, you gotta watch your back, kid. And if the police do know that Satoshi killed the aunt, and Oishi hasn't used that information to intimidate Keiichi or whatever, why not? Is he... How much else would he know? I mean, he obviously knows more than he's letting on, and he was also hanging around with the people, like the victims, wasn't he? Oh man. He had been steadily driven into a corner, and then he wanted to at least hold out until Satoko's birthday, but finally they nailed him. At the time, Satoshi had been carrying the savings he'd amassed to buy Satoko a giant stuffed animal for a birthday present. He would buy the stuffed animal as her gift, and then get caught. Or he could use the money and disappear. That was the choice he'd been forced to make, and he decided not to make Satoko the sister of a murderer. If that was the case, then it must have been an unspeakably bitter decision. All that money he'd saved wanting to see Satoko happy, he had to use it to make her sad, and he used the savings and disappeared to Tokyo if the rumors were true. Was that how Satoshi disappeared? I don't know. That Oishi guy seems to think that way though. Oishi. Fucking Oishi. Had he slowly been driven into a corner by that repulsive man's pig-headed pursuit? The circumstantial evidence is all there, but I think your deduction is wrong. They caught some lowlife somewhere in the prefecture, and he apparently turned himself in for the crime. That was right. The deviant had confessed and the incident was solved. What if the guy who turned himself in was Satoshi's father? And he's like, what if Satoshi went to him and is like, hey, my blood-related father, I just killed my aunt. Can you take the blame? And he's like, oh, okay. Anything for my son. They said he really was just a crazy person, that he had no ties to Hinamizawa. And no relationship with Satoshi, of course. I mean, I have a pretty hard time believing the guy would lie in Satoshi's place. You can just arbitrarily decide like that. You never know where or how humans are tied together. If that guy took the blame, then it was the perfect crime. Of course, if it was really a perfect crime, there would have been no reason for Satoshi to vanish. Yeah. Plus, I don't think Satoshi had the kind of money to run away. That day he withdrew all his savings. No matter who I tell this to, nobody believes me, but that stuffed animal he said he was buying for Satoko, it was gone from the display, sold. It must have been Satoshi. Wait a minute. If he didn't use the money to flee and he bought the stuffed animal instead, he would have gone back to Satoko, wouldn't he? Seems unbelievable he'd buy it, then disappear without having given it to her. Yeah. So, now I don't know what happened. It'd be one thing if he had the money, but if he used all his savings on it, he'd be totally broke. You can't live a life on the run without money in this world. I didn't get it. After all that, I was understanding Satoshi less and less. The two of us fell silent. I couldn't remember how we even got on this topic. Sorry. I think we got off topic. Satoko, right? Don't worry. I actually already invited her. Huh? You serious? When everyone went to the shrine to prepare for the festival, we started talking about getting Satoko to the festival itself. So then I used the phone at the assembly hall to invite her. Her uncle was acting distant and didn't seem to care at all, but in any case, we got the okay from him. We decided to all meet up and go together tomorrow. You okay with that? Satoshi. Stupid. I'm not Satoshi. I was a little relieved. I hadn't needed to make the phone call. Satoko had already been invited to the festival, and done in a way that smelled of blood, a way to leave her uncle alone to create time for me to kill him. They purely wanted Satoko to enjoy herself, so they invited her. In the end it was the same, but I was happy for that slight difference. Sorry. I guess I didn't need to call then. First yesterday, now today. Sorry for, saying such weird things. Hydrate indeed, most certainly. Drink I shall. Chug, chug, chug. I finished my tea, I think. Well, there's a tiny drop left. But I got water. I am one hydrated Waz. Just forget about it. No, I'm the one who should apologize. Losing it like that isn't like me. I'm really sorry. We apologized to each other for a little bit. Alright, I'll be going now. Good night. What did you have to do? As if interrupting our parting words, Mion struck straight where it hurt. Or is it like with Satoshi, where you can't say? Stupid. I keep telling you, I'm not Satoshi. Yeah, I know that. I deflected her with a response that wasn't really an answer. Mion didn't hound me anymore after that. Alright, this time for real. Good night. I don't know why you're giving me the same phone call as Satoshi-kun did, but yeah, never mind. Sorry. Good night. I'm hanging up. Click. Satoshi Hojo. Just who are you? I scorned you as a coward who ran away, abandoning his sister. I always thought you didn't have the right to call yourself her Nini, but now I didn't know what to think. Ogashiro-sama's curse on the 4th year, their aunt's death, and Satoshi's disappearance. And now, me, trying to carry out Ogashiro-sama's curse on the 5th. Oddly enough, what I was going to do overlapped perfectly with Satoshi, the day before the curse. No, that wasn't all. If we start back from Satoko being abused, then I'd been overlapping with Satoshi for days already. Yeah, and it was a bit like that in the first one. I wonder if in the second episode his actions overlap with Satoshi as well, like, especially, I mean, that could be the case if, Satoshi was actually dating Mion, then that would be, like, that's the similarity, in that episode. Interesting, interesting. When I talked to Mion before, she asked me if I was Satoshi. That was the first impression a third party like Mion got, then it was probably true. Then as Satoshi had accomplished, I would succeed in the murder. But that was the extent to which we overlapped. I was far calmer than Satoshi, and more calculating. I could actually grow calmer the more enthusiastic I became. That's why I wouldn't follow in Satoshi's footsteps. I would snip him cleanly out of the world, and then get our peaceful life back. Maybe Satoshi has been with me ever since I chose to use Satoshi's bat as my weapon. No, maybe even longer than that. When I decided I'd be her Nini, maybe Satoshi had been residing within me then too. Satoshi, were you really a coward? Or are you a true Nini, even now, the kind worthy of Satoko's love? I'd never met him, never spoken to him, didn't even know his face, and yet I felt so connected to him. I'd never felt that way before. Hopefully, I'm hoping to get through this chapter. Not on the housewife murder case? Oh shit. I'm hoping to get through this chapter. Upcoming chapter. Chapter 9? Yeah, I think. This stream. And hopefully there'll be some murdering. Okay, let's, doink, doink. Let's check it out. For the attention of those on the housewife slaughter incident case. July 1982. Okinomiya Police Station, 1st Investigative Division. Chief Takasugi. Prefecture, Police Headquarters for the Eradication of Drug-Related Crime. Shishibone Branch Head. Regarding incident designated as Undercover Investigation. This message is to inform you that a section of the testimony records of an incident under this police headquarters jurisdiction has been found. That is thought to be related to the undercover investigation of the incident in question, Okinomiya Police Station X, Hinamizawa Village housewife slaughter incident. During investigation of suspect who was arrested for possession of illegal drugs, there was testimony alluding to the crime in question, and it became clear that it contained information that only the perpetrator could have known. Therefore, we are prepared to share this record of testimony with you, duplicate attached. If this testimonial is to be believed, then there is an extremely high chance that suspect was the perpetrator in the incident in question. In addition, on receiving this testimony, the head investigator on the case inquired as to the incident with the Okinomiya Police Station. But the responsible party at Okinomiya Police Station misunderstood, and in compliance with the designation as an undercover investigation by executive order from the Prefectural Police Headquarters on July 1, 1982, General Admission B112. They did not explain the incident's existence to the head investigator as they should have. Because of this, the head investigator did not realize the importance of the testimony as it related to the case in question, and as a result was negligent when combing the scene. We apologize for having effectively ignored it until now. In addition, there is a postscript stating that suspect died while in confinement yesterday on Okay, hold on. 82, what year are we in now? Oh, I can just check my thinking zone. Where is it? Here it is. So, year 4... Okay, dam site 1979. Okay, year 3 was 1981. So year 4 was 1982. I feel like I didn't comprehend any of that. I need to go over it again. Okay, 1982. eradication of drug-related crime, undercover investigation, section of the testimony records, a section of the testimony records of an incident has been found. It's related to the undercover investigation of the incident. The investigation of the suspect, who was arrested for possession of illegal drugs. Testimony alluding to the crime in question. Contained information that only the perpetrator could have known. If we believed, then they probably were the guy who did it. That investigator talked to the police. The responsible party, the police station, misunderstood. They too many words for my little ass brain. So the head investigator inquired with the Okinomiya police station, but the person they talked to at the Okinomiya police station misunderstood, and in compliance with the designation as an undercover investigation by executive order from prefectural police headquarters on July 1, they didn't explain the incident's existence to the head investigator as they should have. Okay, so the head investigator asked the police station, but the police station didn't explain it as they should have to the head investigator. So the head investigator didn't realize the importance of the testimony and was negligent when combing the scene. The suspect died while in confinement yesterday. Okay, I'm gonna have to look at that after the stream when I'm taking notes. That it's a bit wordy. I need to figure out, like, was that, is that from like 1982 or is it like this year or like what? Okay, I'm gonna take a quick little break. I want to do ad break. I want to do 2 minutes. Doing 1 minute 30 seconds. 2 minutes should turn off pre-roll ads for just a little longer, and that should cover until my next break. But let's do that. Alright. Tea time. I will return shortly. Yahoo! And hopefully we'll get through chapter 9? 10? Okay, yeah. I'll be back. See you soon. I'm back. I'm a wazigoo. Let me get my gloves because Open. Took an hour to get through this half of the chapter. Hopefully I can get through this next chapter in an hour. Ideally less. We'll see. So I have my guitar lessons on Mondays. So hopefully I will be able to get through this chapter and have enough time to get ready. Let's continue, but if we don't, that's okay. There's always a next time. Alright. Sunday. The fireworks I heard before noon were probably to announce the opening of the festival. And the weather certainly wasn't festival weather. It was cloudy, with a chance of meatballs. I'm sorry. Television forecast was calling for possible downpours starting this evening and lasting until around midnight. But as long as it wasn't raining at the moment, the festival would go on. Ooh. That could be bad if they call off the festival because of rain. And then people start coming back and they're like, oh shit, look, that's Keiichi with a bloody baseball bat and he's covered in blood. And he's burying a guy in a hole. The festival had to open, or it wouldn't begin. The Furude Shrine grounds were probably decorated beautifully for the big performance that only happened once a year. Many paper lanterns were hung up, all in the auspicious colours of red and white. So if Keiichi doesn't actually go to this festival, then that... If we're trying to find a common thread through all of these situations, all these, like, episodes, then that would eliminate the Watanagashi as being the thing that ties them together. Like, Keiichi going to the Watanagashi. The sound of electric motors at the stalls, the voices of kids running around, their happy families watching them, smiling. Today was the festival of Watanagashi. Was everyone already partaking in the festivities? What about Satoko? Had she forgotten her days of suffering just for a few moments, while smiling that brilliant smile she hadn't in so long? This would probably be the longest day of my life. It would be a day I would remember vividly for as long as I lived, which might not be for very long. I told my parents I'd go to the festival this evening and lounged about during the early afternoon. We may have lived under the same roof, but they couldn't help being surprised by the deviation from how I usually spent my time. Glancing at my parents out of the corner of my eye, I went to the front door. So his parents don't go to the Watanagashi? I tied my shoes just a little tighter than normal, as if to express the firmness of my resolve in those knots. When I decided to murder Satoko's uncle, I was in such a state of excitement I almost went crazy. And when I was planning out the act of a murder, which went directly against all the morals fostered in me thus far, I was in such a state of calm I almost thought I had lost my emotions. And then, yesterday, when I learned Satoshi had made exactly the same phone call as me, I didn't know how to describe the muddled feelings I had then, and now, entering today. Right now, I lacked all the emotions I'd possessed until now. To make a simple analogy, it was the kind of feeling you might get right after you wake up, when you're still half asleep and you don't feel anything very clearly. I had no anger towards that man for the violence he'd committed against Satoko, nor did I feel sadness towards or sympathize with her. I felt no discontent towards my friends who had just waited and watched, never reaching out to her with any help, and no nervousness or fear towards the day that had finally come. Yes, right now, you could say I was in the best possible condition for carrying out a murder. When it came down to it, I would probably need to let my violent emotions take control, but right up until that moment, I would be like an insect, like a Higurashi, if you will. Hopefully that Higurashi won't cry. I would slowly, surely, and silently move towards my one objective, and then, when I had my prey, I'd attack like a bullet. There was no emotion in that. Just the creeping mindset insects possessed. That sort of sneaking feeling was just the best. I would kill Satoko's uncle like he was a worm. I had to laugh a little at thinking that way. Thinking like an insect. Tug. I tightened my laces one more time, and walked out the door. I brought the shovel out of the front storeroom. I would need it to dig the man's grave. The shovel was a convenient one made for camping. If I twisted it like so and split it into 3, I could easily hide it in my bag. I twisted the shovel and dismantled it. And even though I'd done it countless times before, I had trouble for some reason. Like I was suddenly clumsy now. I knew why. It wasn't because I was nervous. My weak-willed self deep within me was hesitant. I knew that the act of dismantling the shovel was the first step I'd take to becoming a murderer. I think you've already taken the first step. Gah. Ooh. The last twist was conspicuously difficult, but it finally submitted before the strength of my determination. It's gonna go so wrong. The shovel is gonna, like, break and he's, like, gonna have this freaking body he has to take care of. Everyone's coming home from the Watsunagashi because it's pouring with rain and... oh boy. The area around Satoko's house was outside my circle of activity, but even just riding my bike in the middle of the day like this might seem suspicious to an observant person. I definitely want to avoid meeting and talking to someone I knew. With that in mind, I chose the route to my destination carefully. I didn't mind going a long way around. With how long this day would be, I could never be too careful after all. Still, I was fortunate enough not to run across anybody on my way to the planned site of the crime. I wasn't superstitious at this point, but it was a good omen. The place I would dig the hole was in this grove, a little further into the woods. I was worried I might not make it to the same place as before, since there were no signs to guide me, but I arrived there smoothly and as expected. I took another look around. Not even a hint of human presence. The air was a little bit damp, but it was comfortable in the cool shade of the trees. I wonder... I just had a thought, like maybe we could run into Tomitake. I took the disassembled shovel out of my bag and began skillfully putting it together. Then, I stuck the tip of the shovel into a soft-looking patch of ground and pushed on it with my foot. The shovel would split into the earth if I put some strength into that foot. The act of doing so seemed awfully like the point of no return, and it made me hesitate. I was just digging a hole with a shovel, but it made me gulp hard. Calm down, Keiichi Mayabara. Let's do a countdown. Get it done on the count of 3, okay? Alright. 1, 2... I couldn't do it on the countdown, despite it just being sticking the shovel into the ground, and had to count down 5 or 6 times. Damn it, I'm just digging a hole. This is pathetic. As I thought that, I put my strength into my heel like I was stepping on something unpleasant, and split came the sharp noise. Ooh. Yeah. Ooh. It was only soft at the beginning. Roots and stones quickly got in my way, informing me just how hard it was to dig a hole big enough for a person. No decent person would ever come here anyway. Maybe it would be enough to cover him up with some dirt. Every time a naive thought like that crept into my mind, I bit down on it with my teeth and dug even harder. I've dug enough now. I could hide him like this. Every time I thought that, I would go down into the hole, grow disappointed at how shallow it was, and return to digging. A thin layer of sweat on my brow eventually formed into drops and fell to the ground. My back was in even worse shape. My damp shirt adhered to my skin, and it felt so disgusting. The things I couldn't stand the most were the mosquitoes. Ooh. Maybe they were attracted by the scent of my sweat. The white and black striped mosquitoes would cling to me whenever I let my guard down. It was hot. It was disgusting. I was sticky. I was itchy. All those uncomfortable feelings surged through me in waves. Damn it all. So what? You telling me to pack up and go home? Is that it? I hadn't yelled at anyone. Oh, I'm so nervous. It was me talking to myself, me telling myself something. Why was I feeling this way? And digging a hole all the way out here? What benefit would digging this hole give me? What harm would there be in not digging this hole at all? Wait, in the first place, who ordered me to dig? When I thought it over, maybe ever since grade school, or even before that, my whole life had only been me doing what other people told me to. I didn't mean it was somehow constrained, living a life just based on the commands of others. And I didn't mean I was too lazy to try and find my own road in life. Metaphorically speaking, yes, it was like a road. Oh right, let's get metaphorical. I'd never been particularly physically fit. I didn't hit puberty very early, and if all my classmates and I got in a line, I'd usually be on the shorter end. My scores in jump rope competitions and marathons were the very picture of average. And it wasn't like the captains of the dodgeball teams would have a passionate rock paper scissors contest to see which would get me. During those kindergarten and grade school years, it felt like somebody was only worth how fast they grew and how fit they were. Looking back on it now, it was really uncomfortable for me. The thing that turned all that around was just a few words from my mother. Keiichi, would you like to go to a cram school? You'll better grasp what you're learning in school and it will be more fun. The very first test I took at a cram school was kind of like a game. It was a lot of fun. It wasn't like the tests with the same exact problem dozens of times in a row. Every question had a picture to it, almost like one of those puzzle books that came with manga magazines. If my studies at school had been like this, it would have been way more fun. Several days later, I went to the cram school again with my mother and the enrollment paperwork. Mum and the person at the cram school had a really long, heated discussion, so I accidentally dozed off and missed most of what they said, but I clearly remember one point. Mum had made a loud groan, surprised at something. By 61, do you mean his average score was 61 points? No, not at all, Mrs. Mayabata. The deviation from the mean of all our cram schools across the country is 61. He's showing extraordinary numbers, even on a simple intelligence test. First, I would like to say that Keiichi Mayabata-kun is extremely bright. Keiichi? But he doesn't have very good grades at school. He has average marks on his report cards, B's, C's, D's. Is there some kind of mistake? We cross-checked with several tests as well, and we learned some very interesting things as a result. Mayabata-kun is extremely weak when faced with questions that don't have any meaning. He just has no interest in simple, dull questions that don't have to do with everyday life. So even if he doesn't know what 2 plus 3 is, if you told him he had 2 apples and then got 3 more, he would understand that sort of question? That's right. For example, instead of telling him how to draw a flattened, foldable cube, what if we asked him what a die would look like when cut open? If we did that, he can answer beautifully. The person from the cram school showed her a page from one of the exams I took. It was a paper with questions about construction. Construction questions were unusual, so they were really cool, weren't they? In this question, it asks to draw an unfolded, regular icosahedron, a shape with 20 faces. When we rephrased it and asked him how he would cut out a piece of cardboard to create a 20-sided die, Keiichi-kun drew the answer as though it were easy. This is not something an average child can do. Keiichi, have you ever made a die with 20 sides from a magazine extra or something? Dice only went from 1 to 6. I'd never even considered before this test that there were dice with more than 6 sides. So it was fun to imagine what kind of shape a die that went up to 20 would have. If I had a die like that, I could win at Snakes and Ladders against anyone, so I immediately wanted to make it. Finally, I entered cram school. There were only 4 students in the class they put me in, which was called Select. It was the highest class, and some of my classmates were in lower classes. And when I remembered how much better they had done at things like dodgeball and the 50-meter sprint, I felt happiness well up within me for the first time. Even if I wasn't as good at them physically, I triumphed over them in other ways. It was fun at first. The more I did, the more I was praised, and my teachers at school suddenly started pampering me, and it felt good. My parents were satisfied too, and I enjoyed seeing them satisfied. The more I listened to my parents' commands, the more fun things got. That did happen, didn't it? I grinned dryly in self-deprecation. Because, well, my studious lifestyle didn't end up lasting very long. It was only at the beginning I enjoyed learning more and more. I gradually got along less with my friends. My classes were behind what I was learning in cram school, and I eventually stopped respecting the teachers, given that they could put me to sleep with their lectures. And, well, I was a disagreeable sort who bragged a lot about how much I knew, and the ways of the world wouldn't let me remain in that state of ecstasy forever. I would do as I was told, then I'd go above and beyond their expectations, and then they praised me. I was happy for that, and the cycle repeated itself like the wheels on a bike. I thought moving forward like that was how life worked, like a bicycle. When I moved to Hinamizawa, I realized just how inadequate it was. Some things happened, and we started saying how moving and getting a change in atmosphere would be nice. And then my father, he had a place that he liked, that he'd gone to a few times to draw the nature. He started saying that he wanted to bring his atelier there? With me in blank amazement, they decided to move to Hinamizawa. And after that, I met them, didn't I? The first day after transferring here, I went to the classroom with the teacher. I thought it would seem pitiful for her to bring me in there, so I placed my hand on the door before she could, slammed it open, and set foot into the room. Clatter. The thrilling, powerful way I opened that door was none other than my own determination to try doing my life over again. And then, within seconds, that determination took a hard counter to the face. A black border razor fell on me. Plus, there was a huge rock inside. It was a supremely painful trap someone had set up. Oh, come on. Satoko was already beating me right from the first day I transferred? That frightened me. I was bewildered. The class was surprised too. I wasn't just surprised that the students in the class were all in different grades and were different genders. It was because the room felt completely different from the schools I knew. And as I spent more time with them, my surprise continued to grow. This fresh sense of surprise had never left my life, even to this day. Every day was a fresh new surprise. I've never had a single boring day since coming here. The days were lively, spent with the other club members. We played Old Maid with cards, with scratches on the back to cheat. We let all our passions go wild during our games. We went all out as regular participants in tournaments at the toy store in town, and many, many more things. Recently during those times, there was the bento competition. It was then. That's when I saw an unexpected side to Satoko. Thinking back on it, I only ate dinner with her 2 nights. It was such a sweet, gentle time spent, and it warmed my heart remembering it even now. I realized that Satoko was pretending to be stubborn and firm, and how brave she was. Part of her heart was always waiting for her Nini to come home, and I vowed to become her Nini. Satoko may have been nagging and overly critical, but she knew how to take care of someone. But though it might have seemed like she was taking the lead, it was actually her way of depending upon another person. Even if Satoshi and Satoko's lives as siblings were confined by their uncle and his wife, they were still warm, sunny days. When did those sunny days go all wrong? What mistake was made? Lamenting tragedies of the past would do no good, and I told myself that so many times, but I did anyway. Keiichi, isn't that why you chose your own path? To take back that life? Nobody ordered you to do this. You decided it on your own. You don't desire anyone's praise for this. You thought it all through yourself. You'll carve it out yourself. And you'll do it now. This wasn't a path I could see very far down, not like the road parents or society could offer. It was a narrow path, dark and utterly distressing, one for which the next step would always be shrouded in darkness. But that disheartening path would keep going on forever. It was an unlimited path, and there was nowhere I couldn't travel. The kind of path only available to those able to imagine where they wanted to go. Don't be ashamed at breaking from the brightly lit, paved road. In fact, feel proud that you found your very own path to walk. Okay, that's lovely, Keiichi. I'm glad you found your own path. But this path involves murdering someone. I think he's kind of... yeah. Yeah. And I hadn't discarded the paved road either. Once I achieved my goal, I would go back to that bright road, and then I'd spend those average sunny days at my leisure. Fresh. When I next realized it, the hole had grown so deep I couldn't believe it. Did I dig all this myself? I think digging this much is enough, right? I put my shovel into the bottom of the hole. I would drag the body here, throw it into the hole, and cover it up with dirt. Even if it took me time to camouflage it by putting plants on top, it would all go much more easily than digging this hole had. I glanced at my watch. It was almost evening, and I hadn't realized it. I may not have felt the time passing, but digging a hole this deep must have taken quite a lot of time. Again, with the kind of distortion of time. I don't know. I took a seat on a slanted rock nearby, and wiped the sweat from my brow. Now, once it got a little darker, I'd go get the metal bat I hid in the schoolyard. Then I'd make the call to lure him out. And then, I'd do it. The number of things I needed to do to reach that moment were dwindling. I felt that moment closing in on me much more keenly than I did the passage of time. I didn't have any hesitation, but I still felt that, a contradiction. At every step in this process, I had a few chances to hesitate, to turn back, to let myself lose my nerve. Having to endure those million temptations and wait for when the time was right was an indescribably slow and painful torture. I had thought myself acting all weak because of that, but I stopped midway through. This was okay. It was fine. I could detest the abnormal act of homicide as much as I wanted, and it didn't matter. I wasn't going to be a cutthroat killer after today. I would pass through this strange day and go back to the world I was in before. If I fell to the level of a psychopath who thought nothing of killing, I wouldn't be able to go back to my old life. So this was fine with me. I didn't have to feel ashamed at hesitating to kill, because I was human. It was so funny to me that I'd be the bearer of Oyashiro-sama's curse at the same time I was aware I was human. I exhaled lightly and stood. I concealed my presence and sharpened my senses in all directions to search for anyone around but me. Okay, let's go. One step at a time. I would walk my own path. A path no one had forced me to walk. Let's do this. Keiichi Mayabara. The cicadas made an annoying fuss. Their chorus covered up the suspicious noise of me breaking twigs underfoot. And their chorus filled the path far ahead of me, letting me know I would be alone for some time. The cicadas blessed the path I walked, encouraging me with every last ounce of strength they had. The sky was far above. In not even an hour, the veil of night would draw near and the sky would be tinted with dusk. By that time, the Higurashi would let me hear their chorus in place of the cicadas. When that happened, Would everything be over with? Would everything have ended? I said something along those lines when I left Satoko's fate up to a public agency. But this time was different. I would do it. I would carry it out. I would end it. It would all be over very soon. Everything would end. Yes. When the Higurashi cried! Boom! Ooh. It's happening, it's happening. There was nobody at school. I couldn't hear the playful voices of children. This was the first time I'd seen the school with such a lack of human presence. Still, I quieted my breath and looked around, not wanting to be unprepared. It had gotten darker outside, but it was almost like my eyes could see more clearly now. I made absolutely sure of my safety, then walked to the heavy construction machine I'd hidden the metal bat behind. I had a tinge of worry, a premonition that someone had found the bat and hidden it somewhere else as a prank. If that happened, would I take that as an opportunity to desist? If it really wasn't there, then the sensation of chilled metal was still here where I left it. It hadn't run away. Satoshi hadn't run away. He'd waited here patiently. For me. Sorry for the wait, Satoshi. It's been a long time coming. You prepared for this? Through the metallic touch, Satoshi grins at me in my mind. That's what I should be asking, you know? I did this last year already. You should be more worried about yourself. Right on, Satoshi. Let's show him a bad time. Oh, Keiichi. Oh, Keiichi, you're so well adjusted and normal. Satoshi's bat got lighter and lighter, and fit into my hands like it was being absorbed. It didn't feel wrong to swing this. I could move it around so naturally. It was like an extension of my own right arm. Of course it felt like that. Satoshi and I were holding one bat together. Next, I would make the call to lure the man out. It wasn't a bad time for it. My friends were doubtlessly parading happily through the stalls. I hadn't considered where to make the call from. My house and Satoko's were pretty far apart. If I called from my house, I wouldn't make it. Couldn't I use the school phone? But as I thought, the room was locked up and I couldn't get in. Shit. I'm so naive. You should have at least figured this part out. Is there like a payphone somewhere? I couldn't call him. And just for that, was today all over? I'm sorry, Satoshi. And just as I cursed my own naivete, a miracle occurred. A bicycle came into the schoolyard. It was a familiar middle-aged man. Not Oishi, right? Coach? Not Oishi. The one from the Forest Service field office. Why? Wasn't today Sunday? Was he here to pick up something he forgot? Anyway, the forest officer went around back and felt around in his pocket. Then unlocked the door and entered. The best possible coincidence, and it had to be Satoshi who saved me. Is he gonna kill this guy and get the phone? Metal bat, through just my contact with it, told me this was a chance I couldn't allow to slip by. Keiichi, no! The sections for the forest office and the school were neatly separated. I felt the man head into the forest office's storehouse, which was so far in the back students weren't allowed into it. The door didn't match its fittings well, so it didn't close all the way, and the gap in the door opened slowly as if to lure me in. I took a deep breath and went in. I tiptoed along, silently and stealthily, and made it into the teacher's lounge. That was the only place with the phone. As I held my breath in the teacher's lounge, I heard the Forest Service officer walking back over, and the back door clattered shut and was locked. I glanced out the window at the schoolyard, and watched as the man got on his bike like nothing had happened, and rode out the school gate. The school once again emptied, becoming deathly silent. I waited for a bit to make sure the silence was the real deal, then reached for the telephone on the principal's desk. I fished Satoko's house's phone number out of my pocket. Yes, the number of the class directory for Satoko had been the one from their house now, where she lived with her uncle. I touched the dial with my fingers, and then thought for a moment about what to say exactly when he picked up, despite how many times I'd gone over it in my head last night. Now that I had my finger on the dial like this, it started to seep out of my mind like a cracked bucket leaking water. Simple would be best. More importantly, to say it straight and not sound suspicious. I counted off 3 heartbeats and spun the dial. The call sound. Would Satoko's uncle pick up? Now of all times, the hope that he wouldn't pick up, and the feeling of doom in the knowledge that I couldn't save Satoko if he didn't whirled around in a vortex. Hello? It was the voice of a grumpy man, like he had just woken up. He picked up. Hello? Say your name so I know you're Hojo, you asshole. It would be terrible if I got it wrong. I made up my mind. I had all the initiative on my side. Here we go. This is the Shishibone Okinomiya police station. Am I speaking to the Hojo residents? I was changing my voice, but did he really think I sounded like an adult? Would he believe I was the police? Oh yes, this is Hojo. We currently have your daughter, Satoko Hojo, here with us. What? Satoko? What did that brat do? Genuinely scared of blue-finned tuna. Is there a reason? Like, kind of big. I got a bit of a funny face. I mean, I won't judge. What did that brat do? He fell for it. I could tell by how tense he was that he didn't doubt my words. I can explain the particulars once you have arrived here. They're a lot bigger than people think, and they're so fast they don't break the surface of the water. Oh. Do you have personal experience with bluefin tuna? I can't say that I do, particularly. Would you mind coming to the station right away? Right now? I already took a bath myself, so I don't really want to go out like this though. What? You don't want to come because you already took a bath? Yes, right away. Right away? Jeez man, what the heck did Satoko do? I'll explain once you're here. I'll be waiting. Thank you for your assistance. Erk, 1 second. I don't know where the police station is. Where am I going? You moron, what the hell? The Okinomiya police station? I don't know where it is either. Aren't you from around here? Why didn't you know that? A greasy sweat came over my body. Eventually, just as I was about to choke, he spoke. Biggest bluefin caught was 12.6 foot long and weighed 1,496 pounds. How big is... .84 meters? Damn! Holy moly! That's a giant! Oh, next to the fire station, right? That's pretty far. Thank goodness. He remembered on his own for me. I didn't care where the police station was, so long as he left his house to get there. Then we will be waiting here. Oh, wait. Who am I asking for once I get there? What is your name? On top of that, you wanted to know my name? Just leave your goddamn house already. Maebashi. Excuse me. That was close. I almost thoughtlessly told him my real name. I managed to change the last syllable of it, but I put the receiver down like I was running away. My fingers were trembling, and I was soaked with a tepid sweat. I wasn't just nervous about the phone call. With that call, everything had finally been put into motion. I left the school. It was locked before, but it was easy enough to open from the inside. But I couldn't lock it again after I left. In terms of being thorough, I wanted to lock it, but I couldn't waste time going back to the teacher's lounge and looking for the key. Don't have any personal experience with bluefin, but that's a big-ass fish. Gives me another reason not to fuck around with the ocean. That's fair. That's fair. I think, you know, I think that's completely reasonable to not want to fuck around with the ocean. I needed to rush back as fast as I could and ambush him. I zoomed back to the scene on my bike. If Satoko's uncle got out of town before I got there, everything would be over. He'd learned there was no one at the station named Maebashi, and things would get pretty messed up. As I returned at full speed, I passed a family wearing yukatas. They must have been on their way to the festival. Many people in Hinamizawa knew my face, even though I didn't know theirs. Even just passing them like this made me uneasy. But I generally didn't come around here, so those living in the area might not have known much about me. I say that as if I don't have a planned trip to Florida to swim with dolphins. Oh, that's fun! That's cool. I hope that trip's good. That didn't matter right now. I needed to get back as fast as possible to control my breathing and to ambush the man. I hid my bike in a thicket and picked up Satoshi's bat, which I'd just left hidden in the shade, and then I held my breath, waiting to see someone. I wondered if he still hadn't gotten here. Or maybe he went right out after the phone call and passed by here already? I couldn't figure out which it was, and was set upon by an indescribable impatience. Calm down, Keiichi Maebara. I'm so anxious, holy shit. Even if he came here already, he'd passed by here on the way back, right? The end result would be the same. It's Florida, so you never know what can happen. It wouldn't change the fact that he'd die. He'd probably be coming on his motorcycle. Why would I stop him then? I figured it would be best not to think too hard and just hit him as he passed, or beat him out of his seat. What if he's wearing a helmet? The path was made of pebbles. If I hit him as hard as I could and made him lose his balance, he wouldn't be able to help falling. And then the chorus of the Higurashi stopped. The sound of a bike approached from far away. I couldn't tell what sort of motorcycle it was from its sound, but I'd seen it parked before, so I'd know. It was getting rapidly closer. It was almost here. He just went a little farther. He'd cross into that thicket and appear in front of me. I'd take a moment to make sure it was him. Then when I had, I'd put my plan into action. The motorcycle appeared. A few easily identifiable characteristics told me it was Satoko's uncle's bike, without a doubt. Was it really him? Was it really Satoko's uncle? I wasn't making a mistake, was I? I looked at its characteristics again. Its color, shape, and most of all, the man's clothes and face. Those last feelings of hesitation. I did away with them. Satoko, now, your Nini will end it, okay? Closer, closer. The bike came closer. Florida is America's Poland, ready to fight if anyone fucks with them, and most likely on a lot of illegal substances. I mean, like, there's the whole kind of meme around, like, Florida man, you know? Closer, closer. The bike came closer. Let's go. Satoshi. Yeah. Whoosh. I jumped out of the thicket. I used my shoulder to basically tackle the uncle on the bike with all my might. What if it's Satoshi on the bike? No, it wouldn't be. Oh! He gave a dumb shout as his bike completely lost its balance. Finally, it fell, the bike scattering clouds of sand, and after spinning, it stopped. Her uncle, tossed to the ground, didn't understand what had just happened, and groaned for a few moments, crashed on the ground. New Florida man almost every day. I feel like Keiichi would make a good Florida man. My breathing started to become ragged. No, I couldn't have this emotion. Some weird secretion crossed through my brain and nearly made me hallucinate. Her uncle was groaning. Now was the once-in-a-lifetime opportunity. What was I doing? All the sounds in the world cut off. My mental chaos from a moment ago withdrew like a lie, and I could feel the temperature in my head rapidly cooling down. The tension in my muscles all went away, like the strings they'd been attached to had been cut, and I let my hands dangle at my sides. It wasn't quite like exhaustion. Have you calmed down now? Keiichi Maebara. Do you need to remember again why things got to this point today? Scrape. Scrape. I stepped over the pebbled path, taking one step, another step, then another towards Satoko's uncle. The more I walked, the more my breathing calmed. The more I walked, the more I felt my body cooling, calming, chilling with frost. Yes. At this moment, this guy had lost permission to live. I had just rescinded it. So he mustn't stay in this world any longer. If he lived any longer, if Satoko's misfortune continued, it would be my responsibility for having allowed him to live. I could feel the cooling substance going through my whole body, even down to my capillaries. Her uncle's at my feet now, still on the ground like an idiot. I smiled coldly at how ridiculous he looked. That hurt. That's all it took for it to hurt. Satoko's heart hurt much more, and now you're gonna feel that. And with your life, I'll make up for her pain. I erased all unnecessary information from my mind. I prioritized the murder of this man. Execute, execute, execute. Wham! Utterly calmly, I delivered my first strike to the back of his head. I wanted to get the most effective spot. At least during that first moment, I'd have to attack him while he was at his most defenseless. And if it was hit in the head, he'd cover his head. It was a defensive reaction all humans made, like machines. He used both his hands to cover his head so he couldn't pick himself up off the heap he was in on the ground. Like pounding a caterpillar into the dirt, I hit him over and over. If he covered his head, I'd hit him in the side. If he covered his body, I'd go for his head. On my birthday in 2019, a Florida man was arrested for throwing a toilet through a school board building, and he was arrested while sitting on another toilet? That's awesome. Oh, Florida man. If he covered his body, I'd go for his head. If he rolled over, I'd strike his feet, his knees, his elbows. I didn't care where anymore. By just delivering one blow after another, I induced panic in him. I retained my overwhelming advantage, but I hadn't done nearly enough to deliver a fatal wound. Eee! Her uncle skillfully pulled himself up off the ground and started to run like a fleeing rabbit. It wasn't a judgment he'd made after seeing my face and deciding whether to fight me. Right now he was fleeing by instinct, just trying to escape from the threat that had presented itself. A counterattack from the more physically capable uncle was what I was most concerned about. He may have run, but it wasn't all that unlucky. And the odds were in my favor. The uncle didn't run away towards people, but off the path and into the woods. How pleasant that he would run in a direction where nobody else was. He was fleeing into a strange geography, like a rat that instinctively runs into tight spots over and over. Yes, he was no longer human. He was a rat. The blood vessels in my legs expanded, and my total oxygen supply increased. I lowered myself to gain the most explosive velocity I could. Without breathing, I became a wind-like shadow, and dashed across thickets, crushed dead tree branches underfoot, and dove through the woods like a bullet. He ran so cowardly, arms flailing as he went. After catching up to him, I didn't need so much as a blink of an eye to strike him again. My senses, mind, and body were all sharpened purely to kill this man. This was the first time I'd felt like this. Well, this was the first time this was the first experience I'd ever had killing someone. February 9, 2016, Florida man arrested for allegedly throwing an alligator into a fast food restaurant. Allegedly. The allegedly makes that even funnier somehow. It felt natural continuing to do this for the first time, and that meant I had this much talent for killing. Or perhaps the act of killing was so simple that anyone could do it. I didn't struggle or grow tired at all chasing the clumsy fleeing uncle. No matter how much he ran, it was like trying to get away from his own shadow. He couldn't get away from me. I could easily aim at his back, his shoulder, and his head even from this unnatural stance. Each time I struck him, he wailed in pain and begged pitifully for forgiveness, but it didn't disturb my mind. I was neither excited nor plagued by hesitation like before. I felt sharp. I felt like a carnivore. Of course, so did the uncle, who was trying to run away because he didn't want to die. He didn't want to be eaten, like a herbivore running with all its might, trying to get away. Keiichi's actually fucking killing this guy! Despite all the attacks, despite all the hits, he kept on fleeing without even staggering. And despite the bad footing in the forest, he impressively never tripped over anything. But there was no need to admire that fact. It was simply proof that he was no more than an animal. If he was chased, he would run. If he was going to be killed, he would run. He bared his fangs at the weak, but couldn't oppose the strong whatsoever. He was lowly, vulgar, a diminutive animal. Such a puny little creature had harmed Satoko. Scar after scar to her body and mind, deep wounds that might not ever go away as long as she lived. Oh. Whoa. My cold and calm emotions suddenly turned into bestial ones. My personality changed into something specialized for murder, purely to devour the diminutive animal before me. The uncle gave a puny little shriek, covered his head, and ran. I'm impressed by how much you can run. Fine. Run as much as you like. I will be your death. I will choose the moment at my leisure. Your legs will hurt, your lungs will feel about to burst, your head will hurt from lack of oxygen. If you feel the pain that has become worse than death, then by all means, stop any time. Without turning back, suffocating on his terror of the approaching death, he just ran shamefully onward. He ran but was chased, his head bashed with the metal bat, sweat and drool flying everywhere, blood clinging to him. From his mouth came the sounds of coarse, irregular breathing and high-pitched screaming that verged on crying. And pleas for forgiveness to someone. I didn't know who. Each and every second was a second of atonement that I granted him. Now run. Then fall and moan and die. Where did you even crawl out of anyway? You were never here before. If you were never here, you never should have showed up. If you never showed up, our lives would still be fun and enjoyable. We would have gone to today's festival, waited for each other, and gone to the shrine laughing. We would have been playing amongst the stalls right about now. We'd be browsing the strange food stalls you only saw at festivals, trying to get prizes from goldfish scooping, ring throwing, or target practice. Mion would surely make it into a competition, and we as a club would have a grand time. And everyone would have been cheering for Rika-chan's dedication dance, and everyone would say how fun it was, and it would give us energy for days to come. Fun, enjoyable, and funny, warm times spent with friends. And that would have happened, but it didn't, and now it was all smashed to pieces. There was no doubt that There was no doubt that would be what the world was like if you never showed up. You were the obstacle, the mistake, the heresy in that world. But I would correct that mistake now. I would erase you and make it so this last week never happened. Tonight was the Watanagashi festival, the holy night where taking just one life was permitted in the name of Oyashiro-sama's curse. It looked like the Higurashi stopped crying at some point. When the Higurashi cried, everything would end. And the Higurashi silenced. Lowly one. The hour of atonement is at an end. The Higurashi have stopped their crying, thus it is the end. The end, the end, the end. End. You don't have to run away anymore. Die with those dirty brains of yours smashed everywhere. Whoa. Lightning and thunder struck like an explosion. It was so loud it shook the ground, and I smelled gunpowder. The response I got this time was clearly different from the one before. The metal bat crunched into the crown of his head. It was like the top of his head caved in. The bat felt like it was biting him. It had been the final killing attack that visited him. When I didn't overlook the opening he left as his knees gave out under him. I remained alert for a few moments, then thud, thud. He planted both knees in the ground, and then fell forwards, burying his head in the ground. I'd been holding back my ragged breathing, but now it all came out of me like a dam bursting. My head was dizzy and light, and unable to maintain my balance, I leaned against a nearby tree. The uncle didn't try and guard his head any longer. After a disgusting sort of spasm, he stopped moving. Did I get him? Did I get him for sure? I fought back my exhausted urge to fall over where I stood, and drew towards him carefully, bat still at the ready. It was possible he was faking it and trying to wait it out. Did I check for a pulse? I realized right away, though, how unnecessary that would be. If I thought he might be faking it, then I would just have to keep pummeling him until I was satisfied. I fought back my rather ragged breathing again. And then I swung my bat far above, and brought it down. Plunk. His body leaped like a bow, but he didn't try and cover his head. Then once again I aimed for his head and swung. His reaction was the same this time. After spending a few moments making his head into mochi, the hits gradually started to feel different, and it started to spray a filthy dark red liquid everywhere. How are you gonna clean this up, Keiichi? That was enough. It was definite now. I had absolutely killed him. There was no sense of accomplishment, nor one of regret. I didn't feel anger towards Satoko's uncle, nor pity towards Satoko herself. Instead, right now, I was feeling like my heart had been stolen by the downpour. It had begun to rain at some point, and how comfortable it felt. The rainwater drenched my body and dripped down to the ground. The excitement within me faded as the rain washed away the grime. In exchange, my shoes were so wet they made splashing sounds. And despite abusing Satoshi's bat like that, it wasn't bent very much. There were a few dents in it, probably from hitting the man, but nothing that would make it seem different from before. Instead, it had been stained, with black, with red, with mud and blood. But that itself would be evidence. The one piece of evidence needed to prove that my delusions hadn't just been daydreams, and that I'd ended Satoko's uncle for all eternity. Alright, Keiichi, calm your mind. The time for passion is over. Now is the time to be cold as ice. I needed to bury the body. But where was I? I'd simply followed the man as far as he ran into the darkness. I couldn't take a guess as to how far we'd run. It was already pitch black around us, and the only light I had to go on was the very faint lights on the road a little further down. It was so dark out. I hadn't noticed the darkness until just now. My vision was so good I could see the man's ugly hairline. I could have counted the pores in his head. It was only now that I realized how much crazy strength I had mustered at that moment. I went over to the street light. I looked up and down the road, desperately trying to figure out where I was. This is... oh no. This was the one road connecting Hinamizawa to the town. We were unbelievably far away from Satoko's house. Had the two of us really run so far a distance? My surprise at that was accompanied by knowledge of the miraculous fact that despite running so far and making so much noise, we hadn't come across anybody at all. There was a long way between here and the ambush location where I dug the hole. There was no way I could carry the body that far. Wait, aside from that, the bike the man took here was still lying in the middle of that path. That would be an issue. The police could tell whose motorcycle it was by looking at its license plate, and they wouldn't just leave it at that. Thankfully, the corpse was in dark forest. In terms of urgency, dealing with the bike would come first, and I wanted to get the shovel back from where I'd left it next to the hole. I shouldn't drag the body there. I would have to deal with it right here. Fortunately, the ground was like mud from the downpour, and was more sludgy here than where I was before. I might be able to dig a grave quickly here. Of course, my bicycle was still over where I'd left it too. It still wasn't over. Homicide had only been half of my goal. The other half would be just as important as the first. I would completely hide the body, not allowing a beginning to happen. I would erase the man like he'd never existed, and regain the peaceful times we had before. I bent my head backwards, and calmed my mind even further. The big water droplets struck my brow mercilessly. They were actually quite comfortable, and for a while I let my desire have its way. After confirming that I was sharp again, I started running through the rain. The motorcycle was in the grass at the roadside. Considering how it looked, pelted with rain and covered in mud, it actually seemed like it had been lying there for a very long time. The plan was to drop the motorcycle into the swamp. The swamp was a bit of a walk from here. I lifted the bike up. I didn't think it would be so heavy. I was a little surprised. But once I had it upright, it was fairly easy to roll it along. Still, pushing this thing all the way to the swamp was really not something I wanted to do. I could no longer ignore my exhaustion, and it warned me numerous times of how far away the swamp was. Its motorcycle. I wonder if I could ride it well enough. Once I got it going, it would be basically the same as a bicycle. Wouldn't it get me to the swamp quickly? The plan suggested by my exhaustion, the anxiety at getting on a motorcycle for the first time withdrew. I turned the key, and then you just kick this pedal, right? Yeah. It's on. And then I gripped the handlebars, first the right, then the left. Maybe I twisted them too much. The bike lurched and did a wheelie like an angry horse. I lost it for a second, but it was just a problem of how much torque to apply. Let's try that again. This time, slowly, gently. That time it went well. It was strange to be on a two-wheeled vehicle that would go even if I didn't pedal. Very odd, but I got used to it quickly. Mion once told me you could get a scooter license within a day, and she was clearly right. This was pretty easy. I needed to throw the metal bat into the swamp too, but I didn't know how I would pack the bat onto the motorcycle. Without much other choice, I stuffed it into the back of my shirt, feeling like a ninja carrying a katana. If I put the tip down the seat of my pants and hunched over, it wouldn't fall out. I got back on the bike, and this time, got going without any difficulty. I carefully pressed the button labelled light, and a rather strong light came on, illuminating the way forward. I probably really shouldn't have turned it on, but I didn't have any way of seeing at this point, and had zero confidence I could ride through this darkness. The rain came down on me. I maintained a precarious balance and inched my way towards the swamp. Along the way, I ran across a few people who seemed to be returning from the festival, but none of them had any interest in me. They were either all soaked through with the rain and hurrying on their ways home, or had their umbrellas low and their heads down. Yesterday I might have been wary of even these passers-by, but right now it didn't seem to be much of a cause for concern. In fact, it would probably be less suspicious to be riding out in the open like this instead of sneaking around. More and more, though, I started to think of that idea as naive, brought on by my exhausted state. I climbed a steep hill. On a bike, the hill would have put me out of breath, but I just had to accelerate a little bit to climb the entire thing. Motorcycles sure are convenient. For a moment, its lights illuminated a sign before I passed by it. Onigafuchi Swamp / good children do not play around here. Still, it wasn't like the way that the swamp was cordoned off by a metal fence or anything. Parents and teachers would get mad at you if they found out you were playing at the swamp, but some of the bad kids in my class apparently snuck out here sometimes to see the giant crayfish in the place. They talked before about how they'd go to the candy shop and buy some pickled squid, then just tie it to a fishing line and throw it, and all the crayfish would come running. Once I got up to the bank, there was a tiny ritual shrine and traditional ropes on one of the trees. We haven't been here before, and as it swallowed the downpour hole, the blackened swamp had waited for me. If I slammed on the accelerator from the cliff flight stop I was on now, the thing would fly straight into the middle of the swamp. I had to be careful not to fall in with it. If I drowned and disappeared, man, what a stupid ghost story that would be. On the night of Watanagashi, Satoko's uncle's corpse was found in a thicket by the road leading to town, and Keiichi Maebara went missing. People would whisper that I'd been demoned away. The 5th year's curse would be a half-baked one. Hehehe, cozy. I got off the bike and twisted the accelerator as hard as I could. I let go just when it seemed like it would drag me forward. The bike shot off the cliff and was swallowed down into the swamp, leaving a far fainter splash than I'd imagined. I'm like so into this, and I'm also trying to rush through it a little bit because, yeah, I've probably be able to go for another 15 minutes, but if it goes any longer than that, then I'm gonna have to cut it off early. Cause yeah, I gotta have some lunch before I go to my guitar lesson. Its surface was being pummeled by the downpour, and the muddy, filthy water was flowing into it. I couldn't even make out the motorbike I'd just thrown in there. It was pretty heavy after all. It would be quickly engulfed by the soft mud at the bottom of the swamp, and it would be pulled deeper and deeper until it reached hell itself. I felt no reluctance whatsoever in throwing the man's motorbike down to the land of the demons, but I did have a tinge of regret about Satoshi's bat. I washed the bat with muddy water, and the gore sticking to it came off easily. I had sort of shared today's events with Satoshi, so I wanted to give it a quiet place to stay. That's how I felt. I started to feel more like returning it to the locker from before, so it could continue to keep watch over Satoko. Satoshi. I probably, well, misunderstood you. Satoshi listened quietly, without nodding. I am absolutely convinced now. You were the one who beat your aunt to death last year and saved Satoko. I always scorned you and called you a coward who ran away, but I was wrong. To the rest of the world, some deviant was behind that incident, but I know. That was something you did for her. And then you disappeared. You finally got back that piece and lost it within days. So I swear to you that I will live life to the fullest from now on, live it enough for the both of us. I will live on as though this week, this day, never happened, but I will never forget this short time we shared together for as long as I live. I didn't know what expression Satoshi made as he listened, but as someone who had protected the same girl, I felt he had smiled and given me his blessing. And then my hand moved of its own accord, and the bat I had hesitated to throw away left my hands and flew through the air. It travelled at its parabolic path, spinning all the while, and the swamp absorbed it without a sound. There weren't even any ripples when it hit the surface. That surface was tempestuous because of the downpour, and the bat was long gone. What a word. For a moment I regretted having thrown it, but I realized that might have been what Satoshi had wanted. You're right. I still can't let myself give in to emotion just yet. I would return for my shovel, get on my bike, dig a hole to hide the body, and bury it. It seemed like a simple sequence of events, but I felt extremely exhausted, and I had to do it all tonight. Satoshi left me with only the advice that I needed to finish this up soon, then fell silent for eternity, and disappeared at the bottom of the demon's abyss. I wonder if Satoshi really is in the swamp. Like, actually. I returned to the path I had ambushed her uncle on. My bike was hidden, sleeping in the brush. I stood it back up. My whole body felt heavy, but I needed to finish by the end of the day, even if I had to whip myself to do it. Oh, I forgot something. I didn't just come here for my bike. The shovel was here too. Not good. I was zoning out. Every once in a while, if I let my guard down, my vision would almost go black. Pull yourself together, kei-chan. Still not over. I went into the grove of trees and looked for the hole in which I had hidden the shovel. Unfortunately, I had hidden it deep in the forest, not wanting it to be seen, and now everything was black in the night and I couldn't see anything anymore. I reawakened my fading consciousness and realized just how big this annoyance really was. It can't be serious. The sweat the rain washed away before came back up to my skin, deep, deep in the forest where the streetlights could never reach. The fact that it would be so pitch black had been completely uncalculated. With this much darkness, even if I had been able to kill him right away like I'd planned, I didn't know if I still could have buried him without a problem. What should I do? I simply couldn't find the shovel tonight. He's gonna leave the body in the forest and it's gonna get discovered by the cops. Ooh, no. If I forced myself to go deep into the forest, I'd lose even my sense of direction and might actually get lost in there. That might have been an exaggeration, but it was fully possible I'd trip over a tree root and sprain a muscle. Alright, my house's storage room. There was another shovel there, the same fold-up kind. Couldn't I go back to the house, get the shovel, and give up on finding the shovel tonight? Not as though the name Mayabara is written on the shovel, but it seemed like an unusual item from an import variety store made in another country, so I didn't want to leave that shovel here, but in this darkness, I couldn't do anything. I should give up and go back to the storage room, and there was an electric lantern in there. If I used that for light, I could look for it, but it was so extremely dark. Could I light the way with just the lantern? The light of a lantern in this dark night. I couldn't discard the possibility of it drawing eyes, and I doubted if I could find the shovel with the lantern's feeble light. Okay, gee. Besides, I'd left the body there for a pretty long time already. My sense of fear, dulled through excessive exhaustion, finally reared its ugly head. Anyway, for now, the most important thing was to hide the body. A shovel being found wouldn't be a big deal, but a corpse? If they found that, I'd share the same fate as Satoshi. First, I'd go back to the storage room at home. Then I'd get the lantern. What about his parents? Now that it's gotten this dark, I might still need light to dig a hole for the body too. And I'd get the other shovel, and then I'd deal with the body first thing. Once that was done, I'd come back here, find the shovel, and bring it back. I had to do at least that much, but I was so tired. But complaining was getting me nowhere. If I started getting complacent now, everything would have been for naught. At some point I had sat down. I gritted my teeth, then endured, lifting my heavy hips. The night was young. Of all the nights I'd experienced, none had ever been this long. When would it all end? The night was young. Yay! We killed him! Oh god, we killed him! We killed Satoko's uncle. Okay, well, I'm gonna have to leave it here. Seems like this chapter might be a little long. Holy moly. I'm amazed that he did it. Just... Is he gonna be able to hide it? I'm kind of... like, is he gonna go home and then he's just gonna kind of fall asleep, or... I feel like he's gonna overlook something and it's gonna go horribly wrong. And like, what about his parents? Are they still home? Are they gonna hear him coming back and getting a shovel and be like, Kei-chan, where are you going with that shovel? He's like, oh, don't worry, I'm just going to dig a hole to hide a body. I killed my friend's uncle. Anyways. That's gonna be it for today. I think I will probably be streaming tomorrow as well. Yeah, thank you for coming along. Yeah. I will see you all in the next one. Bye bye everyone. Have a good day or night. Bye bye.